My name is Tiana. At 27 years old, I was leading a life that seemed simple and peaceful, teaching elementary school. On the surface, everything appeared calm, but beneath it all, I carried a past far more complicated than anyone could imagine, carefully hidden from the world. It all began the day I met Matthew at a small cafe near the school where I taught. He was unlike anyone I had ever known, genuine, kind-hearted, with a smile that could light up even the darkest room. From the moment our eyes met, there was an undeniable connection. Little did I know, Matthew was hiding a secret. He was the heir to one of the wealthiest and most powerful families in the country, the Millers. As our relationship grew, so did our bond. It felt natural, like we had known each other forever. What stood out the most was how Matthew never once mentioned his family's wealth. I too kept my past hidden. To him, I was simply Tiana, the modest teacher who loved her students and lived in a cozy apartment. After 6 months together, the school planned a trip to the aquarium. Matthew, ever the thoughtful soul, volunteered to accompany us and help supervise the children. It was a perfect spring day, and the excitement in the air was palpable. As we guided the kids from one exhibit to the next, we stopped by the penguin enclosure where the little creatures waddled together in harmony. Matthew leaned down to one of the kids, whispered something in their ear, then stood up straight and turned to me, a mischievous glint in his eyes. "I've been doing my homework," he said with a playful grin. "Did you know that penguins mate for life? They stay together forever. I want to do the same, Tiana. I love you." Before I could fully process his words, Matt dropped to one knee right there in front of the penguins. With the children's giggles filling the air, he pulled out a small velvet box, opened it, and revealed a sparkling ring. "Tiana, will you marry me?" he asked, his voice filled with emotion. I stood there for a moment, overwhelmed by the suddenness of it all. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I noticed the children. They were holding up homemade signs that read, "Say yes, Miss Vaughn. Marry Matthew." I couldn't help but laugh through my tears. And without hesitation, I nodded. "Yes, Matthew, I'll marry you," I said, my heart swelling with joy. The children cheered, and their laughter echoed all around us. It was a moment I would never forget. But, as with all good things, joy often comes hand in hand with complications. One evening, Matthew told me his father wanted to meet me. His tone was cautious, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something important was about to happen. "My father wants to meet you," he said, his voice quiet but tense. Meeting Richard Miller felt like stepping into the lion's den. His office was on the top floor of a towering skyscraper with a sweeping view of the city. But it wasn't the view that unsettled me, it was the way he looked at me. His eyes seemed to cut through me, as if he were judging my very soul. "So you're a teacher?" he asked, his tone almost condescending. I hesitated for a moment, caught off guard, but kept my composure. "Yes, sir," I said quietly. "Do you know how much Miller Enterprises is worth?" he pressed, his voice dripping with superiority. "No, sir. I'm not interested in those things," I answered honestly, trying to steady my racing heart. His wealth meant nothing to me. He let out a dry, cold laugh. "Everyone says that at first. Then, when the divorce comes, they all want half of everything." He launched into a long-winded speech about protecting family wealth. Finally, he pulled a document from his desk drawer and slid it across the table. "It's simple, Miss Tiana. If you want to marry my son, you'll sign this. It's a prenuptial agreement, waiving any claim to the Miller fortune. No money, no property, nothing." Matthew, who had been silent until then, finally spoke up, frustration in his voice. "Dad, this is ridiculous. Tiana's not like that. They're all the same until they prove otherwise," Richard shot back. "Enough, Dad!" Matthew shouted. "Don't talk about my future wife like that ever again." Tension thickened the air. I sat there, feeling the weight of the moment. Without a second thought, I picked up the pen and signed the document. "You're not even going to read it?" Richard asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. "I don't need to, Mr. Miller," I replied calmly, meeting his gaze. "I'm not interested in your money. I love Matthew." The following months were a whirlwind of wedding planning. The Miller family insisted on a lavish ceremony, more about showcasing their wealth and celebrating love. My mother, Nia, observed the whole process with a mixture of amusement and concern. She was the only one who knew the truth about my past, the only one who understood why I could sign that contract without a second thought. The night before the wedding, she called me into her room, her expression serious and almost secretive. She handed me a sealed envelope, her hands trembling slightly. "Your biological father left this for you," she said softly. "He wanted you to open it on your wedding day." My heart skipped a beat. My biological father? I asked, my voice unsteady. I had never known him. My mother always told me she raised me alone. "There's so much you don't know, Tiana," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "So much I kept hidden to protect you. Tomorrow, when you open this, you'll understand everything." The morning of the wedding arrived, and the cathedral was filled with the country's most powerful business figures, friends and associates of the Millers. My mother sat in the front row, holding the mysterious envelope, her face unreadable. Just before the ceremony began, Richard Miller approached me with a smug look. "I hope you don't regret signing that contract, dear daughter-in-law," he said sweetly, but with underlying malice in his tone. That was when my mother rose from her seat and walked toward me, holding the envelope. "It's time, darling," she said, her voice carrying a weight that silenced the room. My hands trembled as I tore it open. Inside was a letter and several legal documents. As I began reading, Richard Miller's smug expression slowly faded. The letter began, "Dear Tiana, if you're reading this, it means your wedding day has come. Unfortunately, I am not there to walk you down the aisle. My name is Albert Vaughn, and I am your father." The room seemed to shift. Richard went pale, but the letter wasn't finished. "Before you continue, please review the attached documents." Inside were property deeds, stock certificates, and financial records. I flipped through them as Richard's face grew increasingly pale. "You control Vaughn Holdings," I read aloud, "a conglomerate that includes 40% of global tech industries, the Blue Moon Hotel chain, Vaughn Pharmaceuticals, and a majority stake in Miller Enterprises." Richard staggered. "A majority stake? That's not possible." I continued. "Yes, my daughter. 4 years, I've secretly acquired shares in Miller Enterprises through various shell companies. As of today, you control 51%. Gasps echoed. Richard was shaken. Then came a deeper shock. My father, Albert Vaughn himself, entered the cathedral alive. The rest of the day unraveled like poetic justice. Richard's past crimes were exposed. My mother revealed she had been managing the empire all along. Matthew stood by me, unfazed by the revelations. We continued with the wedding. Not with Richard giving me away, but with my father, finally present, finally proud. The months that followed brought massive change. Richard was forced to step down. Matthew became the new CEO, leading with integrity. My parents finally married, their love reignited. Vaughn Industries and Miller Enterprises merged, forming Von Miller Global, a company with purpose. Years later, we founded the Nia Vaughn Foundation, supporting schools and teachers, my true passion. I never stopped teaching. Once a week, I returned to that same local elementary school, running programs that taught kids about teamwork and entrepreneurship in fun, creative ways. I may have become a businesswoman, but at heart, I'm still a teacher. And every time I see the framed prenup on my office wall, I smile. A reminder that the universe has its way of delivering justice, and love always wins.